there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska Show. I am John Quick, your host, coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. We are live here. I'm actually in Homer, Alaska, and man, it was a doozy driving down here yesterday. Man, I can tell you that I have driven through some crazy weather in Alaska, but yesterday was about tops the cake. I unfortunately just had my truck wouldn't start, and my other SUV had to go to the shop, and so man, I was driving through what seemed like 2 feet of snow in all the way from Kenai to Homer, but luckily I made it. I'm here, and we are excited that everybody is tuning in, listening today. I have a very special guest with me, City Council Member, Kenai City Council Member James Baisden. And before we go into the 5 questions, I want to share some exciting news with you that James Baisden, I'm a little biased. James and I are good friends. We worked together under Charlie Pierce, and so we have a little bit of a history, but I'm very excited that James is actually going to be joining Must Read Alaska as a weekly host for the Must Read Alaska show. He is going to have a Thursday or a Friday slot. He's going to reveal maybe what that slot's going to be here. And every week you can tune into him. He's going to have guests sometimes. Sometimes it's just going to be him, and he's going to talk about politics in Alaska, local politics, statewide politics, school board issues, school issues, you name it, he's going to talk about it. So we're very excited to have him. Before we go to the 5 questions, I also want to just remind folks that you can find the Must Read Alaska show on pretty much any channel that there's a channel of any podcast. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on Listen Notes, we're on Stitcher, and pretty much the list goes on. We're excited that today we're number 127 ranking on iTunes. We've been up to number 37, as high as number 37, and that's because of you, the listeners. So we're thankful for that. So welcome, James, officially to the Must Read Alaska show. How's your day going today?
Good morning, John. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Hey, sounds like you had a great drive going to Homer last night. And, I think about all the snow and ice, and I noticed today looks like Matsu and Anchorage schools are closed because of the crazy road conditions, and I think we have some delays down here on the Kenai. And I'm coming from the city of Kenai here, where I call home, and look at those bold graphics you got behind you. Pretty cool looking stuff, man.
Look at this. So we're excited here, James. We're going to jump right into it. Every week I'm going to be here Tuesday morning, 7 a.m., and I'm going to be doing a series called 5 Questions where I have guests come on. James just happens to be my first guest on this segment, and he happens to be a future host of Must Read Alaska, so I get it a little easy here. But every week, Tuesday morning, 7 a.m., I'm going to be doing 5 questions where I basically just ask the guests 5 questions. We get to hear directly from the guests. It's less, it's more about getting to know the guests and less about covering the statewide news necessarily. So maybe a different flair of a kind of episode that you'd normally see on Must Read Alaska. So we're trying to switch it up a little bit and offer you a unique show. So James, first question is this: what got you involved in politics in the first place, as you are now an elected official, a Kenai City Council member for the great city of Kenai? What got you first involved in politics?
Well, John, probably about 4 years ago, whenever I was a fire chief down here, and I transitioned over to the mayor's office as his chief of staff and spent 3 years there. And then I looked at doing some local elections here, run for office. I did get elected this last year to the city council, and politics is interesting. I'm a very conservative person. That's where my influence is, and of course, that's probably why I'm here sitting with you, because you and I have a lot of leanings that probably go right, and just like most Alaskans, I'm concerned about politics, and we've got a big election with ranked choice voting and all the stuff that's going to take place this year, and there's a lot to figure out, and we've got a lot of candidates that we're going to have to vet to see what direction the state goes in.
Well, it's I was excited when you won your City of Kenai Council seat. You have one of your campaign promises was to end mask mandates and go against any sort of vaccine mandate that would be potentially down the pipeline. And that's literally the first thing you did when you were elected to the City of Kenai City Council. You got an ordinance passed, and you can correct me if I'm foobarring the ordinance, but you got an ordinance passed that essentially said the City of Kenai is not interested in doing any sort of vaccine mandate and is not interested in any sort of citywide mask mandates, and we won't be interested in any of that. And it passed unanimously. Am I correct in that?
You are. Now. It was a resolution, not an ordinance. So we did unanimously pass a resolution that the City of Kenai, we want to make sure, especially dealing with government mandates, that we weren't forcing employees, we weren't forcing any of the local businesses and our schools. We weren't in favor of mask or vaccine mandates in the schools, and we wanted to have a voice that let the community know that hey, you know what, we got elected, and there were some changes here that we wanted to happen. And the city of Kenai is a pretty conservative area, so it wasn't probably a difficult task, but it was unanimous. And you know what, we're still fighting it. I'm still a voice opposing. We've had some schools here on the peninsula that, based on numbers, they go up and down, and they'll put masks back on the children. We had a photo op here a few weeks ago that had one of our elected senators with our school superintendent in one of our classrooms with these small children with masks, and it's just sad to see. We know that we're hurting our kids when they're in school in masks. They can't learn in that environment, and now that we're 3 years into this, we understand the science and what the mask really means now. It's political, and it's time for it to go away. I was looking here even today. I see there's a peaceful demonstration up in Anchorage from the group Alaskans for Mask Choice at 5:00. They're gonna show up and have a peaceful demonstration. And I know the superintendent up there has recently stated that they're going to unmask the kids and give parents some choice, and it's about time.
Yeah, good for Superintendent Bishop. We support her and her stance now on taking away these masks. So nice work. So question number 2 is this, James. Who have you looked up to, maybe recently, maybe historically, it's up to you, in the political world, and why?
Well, I'll start early. I'm a graduate of being back in the 1980s when I graduated high school. And you know what? The person that influenced me at the federal level was the president at the time, the first president that I got to elect, and that was Ronald Reagan. A big fan. That probably had as much influence on me at the federal level, even to the point to where my family and I have traveled probably 3 different times to visit the Reagan Museum. We'll go back and study the history of those 8 years, and so that's if I want to look at that big figure, it's going to be President Reagan. Here locally, I've had, of course, my influence has been sitting next to Mayor Pierce for 3 years, and helping with some of the politics here that happen locally and dealing with budgets. And that's again, that whole being on the conservative side and trying to reduce government everywhere you can and at least slow it down. It's difficult. It's hard to stop spending money, and even today, here we've got a flood of money coming from the federal level of money that they printed that we're just going to have a negative effect on our future generations, then we need to be worried about that.
Yep. Well, if you're just tuning in, folks, I got James Baisden here. He's a Kenai City Council member, and we're doing 5 questions here on the Must Read Alaska show. And James, one of the cool things that I know Reagan has been a big influence of your life, and I remember when we were in the mayor's office together, you had went to I think the Reagan Museum or something like that, and you brought back some Reagan gifts for the mayor and I. And I thought that was pretty awesome, and I'm a big fan of Reagan myself, so that's pretty. We agree on that point. Question number 3 is this, James. What is one accomplishment in your life that you are most proud of, and why?
Well, that's probably one of the easier questions you're going to ask me. Being a husband to my wife Rhonda for 35 years, we've been together for we've known each other since grade school, and we've raised 3 children here in Alaska. I've got a son attending University of Fairbanks, and 2 going to the local high school here in Kenai. And just being a husband and father has got to be at the top of the list. That's what probably gives most of us most of the joy that we have in our life.
That's awesome. And for those of you that are listening, James successfully, for those of you just tuned in, I want to give some hope to folks who are maybe faced with mask mandates for their kids in schools, because James and his wife and James particularly on the Kenai City Council has made some actual change and progress. It's still possible. He started showing up to school board meetings. Him and his wife, they started speaking out at school board meetings and different events. And when James became a city council member, for those of you that are just tuning in, he was able to pass a resolution that came against mask mandates unanimously. And so if you're in a city, it doesn't have to be Anchorage. There's 100 different small towns in Alaska, right? If you're in one of those towns that has a small school district that's pro-mask and all those things for the kids, go look at cities like the City of Kenai, who successfully navigated some of these waters, and copy some of the things they did, right? If they were successful at it, see if you can do it. So question number 4, James, is this. What is something you have done in your life that you wish you would have done differently, and why?
Well, I guess probably if I had it to do over again, probably go back in time and have, instead of having 3 kids, have 10 kids. That's been something, becoming I was 40 years old whenever I had my first child, so just kind of give you my age. So you take for granted the time that you have left here, and the things that you get to do with your family. And I know now, as I hit my late 50s, that having children and being able to spend time with them, if I had it to go over with, probably would have done it a little bit younger. Probably could have got out and done a few more things with them. It's funny because now the conversations I'm having with them are adult conversations, and even my son, I got a message from him. He's like, he's attending Fairbanks University, and I just sent a letter up there to the university staff asking about their mask issues. We're still dealing with this at those levels, and we can't ever seem to get rid of this. When is it going to go back to normal? When do we break that curve and get back to normal, John? That's the hard part about this whole thing.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I think that the folks that are running things like the University of Alaska system, and big school districts like the city and borough, Juneau and Anchorage, these people on the left are holding off. They're holding on to their glimmer of hope that they could still somehow control the average Alaskan. And I can pretty much just tell you we've kind of had enough. And when I was in Anchorage this last weekend, I was still stunned by the amount of people who are just wearing a mask everywhere. Because when you walk, James, this, when we're walking into Walmart or Fred Meyer or just any random store or city in Kenai or Soldotna or whatever, not too many people are wearing masks. When you go into the Diamond Center Mall, tons of people are still wearing masks, and it's just a interesting thing to me to see, because here on the Kenai we've lived with freedom for the last 2 years, and they were under tyranny in Anchorage until Mayor Bronson got elected, and I think they're still maybe in shock from the tyranny, because we went to a hockey game also in Anchorage, a couple hockey games in Anchorage. Nobody has a mask on. It's like the freedom-loving crowd when you go to the hockey games. Literally, nobody's wearing a mask. And again, I don't care if you wear a mask. It really doesn't matter to me. It's the mandates. When I walk into a store and it says mask required, I just cringe at that, because I'm not going to ask them about their health stuff, and they shouldn't ask me about any of my health stuff. So, one of the things that's the last question is kind of a hot topic, because I think one of the things that, it's election season, excuse me, and we're going to see, senators and governors and potential senators all in the mix in all these communities all over Alaska. It's what they do. They show up, and it's part of the process. And I think I hope the economy is on the forefront of these folks' minds, because I think it's easy for an elected official in Alaska to look at the price of a barrel of oil and say, "Oh, the economy's fine right now. Oh, the economy's fine. Oil's doing fine. The economy's fine." But I can tell you this: I'm a part owner in a local hardware store here on the peninsula, and stuff's still expensive, and stuff is still really hard to get, and things are not like they used to be for the small business owner. And the economy, in my opinion, is still in the crapper. And this is coming from a local business owner that employs people in a brick and mortar store. And so I would love to see some tangible things that could be done to the local economy. And that doesn't mean the government spends more money. For us conservatives or libertarians, it means, how can the government get out of the way so the private sector can do their jobs correctly? So my final question to you, James, is this: do you think there is any hope for the Alaska economy to recover here in the next couple years?
Well, I think there's hope, but it's not going to be short term. I don't see how it can be short term. We're still spending more money than we're producing at all levels. So at our state level, we've got money coming in from the federal government. We've got increased oil and gas money that's going to be coming in, and you'd think that we would learn from our mistakes and we would still spend less so we could put that money away in savings, and we're not. We're going to increase budgetary spending. We do it at all levels of government. I deal with that at the local level right now. I see. I'm gonna take the city of Kenai, for example, and we've received federal money, and we're trying to find ways to spend that money, and you just multiply that across our nation. And I don't see how this continues to work. What we're doing is we're putting this on the backs of our future generations, and that's what really concerns me. So, I want to see us get people at all levels. We got a federal elections, we got a state elections taking place. I don't think there's going to be many of these positions that are not being run against from both sides of the aisle. And we've got to ask really good questions, but we've got to put people in place that's going to put a stop to this and slow it down. Inflation is killing us. My family, we ordered out the other night and spent $200 on something that we should not have spent $200 on. It is, and if I'm experiencing that, everybody else is experiencing that. We're paying our young people to stay at home and not work. This type of system is not working for us. The living wage of people who wanted to make $15 an hour. Well, when you put the inflation factor into this, that's not working out very well right now for any of these people. They're paying a tax, and that tax is inflation right now, and it's not going to come back quick. It's going to continue to increase, I think, over the next year or so.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to. I don't think the Alaska economy is potentially going to recover here in the next short while. Although I'm still hopeful. I'm an optimistic guy, so I'm still hopeful. But my realistic side looks at what's going on, and it just doesn't look good what's coming down the pipeline. So, James, I want to thank you for being on the show. You're going to be hosting your own Must Read Alaska show this week, which is very exciting. Do you have any short last minute things you want to say about your new show coming up?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, I need to thank you and Suzanne for allowing me to help you out. Hopefully, I can get on here and be entertaining and informative. I mean, I'm looking at all the headlines today that are out there, and you and Suzanne, all the stuff that you put on Must Read Alaska keeps us informed. And I'm thinking probably my first couple shows will just be hitting headlines on some of these major news issues, and then hopefully get a guest on here. And whether you or Suzanne will allow me to do a Thursday or Friday show, I'll probably let you guys decide that, and I'll just kind of get in the mix and start from there. But there's so many different issues. I mean, I've got a lot of political issues just I'm looking at right now that you and I can spend another hour at, and we don't need to do that today. But hopefully, we can kick this thing off and keep people engaged every morning, and give them the place they can go to be informed on these political issues. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, if you're a supporter of Must Read Alaska, we want to thank you so much, because as you're listening to this is a free show. And so we want to make sure that stays free. And that only happens because of folks who support Must Read Alaska. Maybe a yearly donation in December. Maybe it's a $25 monthly donation. And this show's possible because of people like you that support this. And so we want to thank you so much. If you would like to donate, you can go to mustreadalaska.com. On the right-hand side, there's a donate button, and $1, $10, $1,000. Every single dollar is very much appreciative. And we're here keeping the mainstream media on their toes, and trying to stand up for what's right in a world full of leftists. And so we want to thank you so much for tuning in, and tune in to this show, 5 Questions, every Tuesday morning. Today's guest was City Councilmember James Baisden. James, thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and we'll see you guys again here soon. Thank you so much.